Hello, my name's Rex Blasterfield, and this is an introduction video to my Quilcom Trout, which is a tribute to the Trautonium. The Trautonium was an instrument invented in 1930 by Friedrich Trautwein, and the idea was to have a resistive steel wire which you pressed onto a contact plate to determine the frequency of a neon tube relaxation oscillator. So this is a simulation of the sound you might get from a neon tube relaxation oscillator. It's very much sawtooth-like, but not exactly. This is a digital sawtooth. So there's a difference. When a brilliantly talented musician called Oscar Sala first saw the Trautonium, he was blown away and immediately started to see the potential in such a system. Such was his enthusiasm for these possibilities that he took over the further development of that Trautonium through various stages and incarnations, most of which can be simulated on the Quilcom Trout. The first modification, and arguably the most important, was to add a pressure-sensitive system, so the harder you pressed on the steel wire, the louder the sound got. Now on the Trout, we have an envelope generator where the attack time is determined by the velocity. Slow velocity, fast velocity. The next stage of development was to add filters, so he used two formant filters, he called them, which were bandpass filters, in parallel to shape the timbre. And since there's a static filters, you get a change of the timbre over the whole span of the keyboard. So if we set this high, low, sounds a little bit vocally. So the sound changes over the range of the keyboard. Sala originally had low pass and band pass formant filters, but we have a lot more here that you can play around with. A very important and interesting later development was the addition of Sub-Harmonic Generators. In conventional additive synthesis and for analysis, the harmonics of a repeating wave are always in integer ratios, but with the sub-harmonic generator, the division ratios are integers, so you can divide by any particular number within a certain range. So this is the sound of a sub-harmonic generator with a division ratio of 12, and I'll change that. So that provides some new and interesting sound possibilities. Sala started off with one sub-harmonic generator and actually went up to 8 before settling on 4 as the sweet spot. So this is the sound of 4. He also added an additional oscillator, which you call the side oscillator or auxiliary oscillator. And introduced a noise generator with tone control. When solid state electronics became available, the sub-harmonic generators were producing square waves due to the method of division, but Sala preferred to pass these waves through a transformer to produce what he calls sawtooth waveforms, which, from what I've seen, were not very sawtooth-like. So this is the sound of that simulation. And I've also provided square waves so you can get that more hollow, woody sort of sound. Solar experimented with different audio routings for the filters. The first one was to have 4 formant filters where the signal from the generators was added up and passed to all 4 filters in parallel. Then later on he decided that it would be better if each sub-harmonic generator had its own dedicated filter where the auxiliary level and the noise only fed to all 4 in parallel. So this switch provides those 2 options. 4 to 4 is where each one goes individually to its own filter, and 4 to 1 is the parallel one. So that gives another possibility for variation. The exact sequence of development is a little bit hard to pin down, to be honest, but I think the last thing that was added was what he called a percussion generator, which we would call an envelope generator. So here we have quite a versatile envelope generator provided for the volume. Sala was well known for fiddling with his knobs during a performance to add expression. So in your DAW you can automate any of these controls, but as an additional extra I've offered an envelope and an LFO which affects all the frequencies of the filters together. So these are monophonic systems, so the first note that you press will get the attack, then when you release the final note you'll get the decay. Sala had a custom-made vacuum tube-based frequency shifter, and it took me some time to realise how important this was to him for making weird noises, sound effects and so on. So this is over here. I've turned the frequency shifter on there, and the mod wheel is controlling the degree of frequency shift. And you can mix the shifted sound with the original sound. A routing configuration that Sala often use, if I go to effects, we've got a delay selected here. We can have all sorts of effects in any of these 4 slots. The configuration was to have a frequency shifter in the feedback path, so I've turned that frequency shifter on there, and this is the kind of effect you can get. You can go up or down. And mix them again. And so on. And if you select a different option here, range of possibilities with the frequency shifter in the feedback loop. The Quilcom Trout is not just a sound plug-in, you could also say it's an instrument. So I've provided this slider system which aims to simulate the string slider that was on the original and all subsequent versions. So we turn it on here, we play a note on the MIDI keyboard, it's two directional, so we can control the volume and pitch. We can introduce a slew. We can have chromatic or completely free sliding. We can use the mouse to jump. Or we can make it so we just have to click on the slider. Now if you don't want to play a note on the MIDI keyboard or a chord, you can turn on this play function which generates this note here that you can set there, and then and it's up to you if you control volume or gating from the slider. Something else you can do with the slider system is introduce vibrato above about half the volume. So if I go to the general panel, here we've got the slider set for the vibrato oscillator, and I've set a sine wave on the generator so you can make sort of theremin type of sounds. And introduce vibrato at higher levels. Moog Music made a tribute to the Trautonium called a Sub-Harmonium, and on that they provided a system for creating polyrhythms. So I provided a simplified system here so you can at least experiment. So this is a single snare drum type sound. If I turn on the polyrhythm generator and attach it to the volume envelope, and I can also attach it to the pitch envelope should I wish to, you can create all sorts of strange polyrhythms. And if you wish, you can sync it to your DAW's BPM, in which case this knob then becomes a division ratio. So you might have a bit of fun with that. Sala made his money, made a living from producing sound effects and soundtracks for films, for movies, and his most famous contribution was the complete soundtrack for The Bird. So I provided a few presets which generate different bird-like sounds. And the wave recorder, which you select here, you can make recordings of your performance and then lay them together in your DAW or audio editor to make more interesting compound sounds. So there's a certain skill to playing this. I've connected the frequency shifter to the mod wheel, so here we go. For these pecking sounds, I use the polyrhythm gator. So you set the frequency of the polyrhythm gator to control the pecking sounds. At the end of the video, I'll play a little compound piece I put together with all these sounds and panning and so on and so forth. I'm not saying it's a great emulation of the Bird soundtrack, but I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but you get an idea of what might be possible. So for such a relatively simple synthesizer, there are lots of possibilities for sound effects and pads and all sorts of noises, and I've provided a range of presets here which demonstrate some of these things. I'm not going to go through them all because you can do that when you don't make the download. Some of them I think are quite interesting, and I like what's possible with it. So there you go, that's the Quilcom Trout, and I hope you have some fun with it and some interest in it, and please read the user guide to get a lot more information about its operation and what it can do. And I have to at this point thank Kevin Brown for what I think is a lovely GUI. So if you click on the label there, that will take you to his website where you can download all sorts of wonderful synthesizers. So until the next time, bye.